how's it going? Dan Schinder here live, if you're watching live, and on the archive, if you're watching the archive, on Drum Talk TV and Yes Shift with my son Steven, who's our associate producer and the producer of Yes Shift, and our guest, Bill Bruford, who is coming to you from Mars. No, I'm just kidding. From Southeast England. I'm in Globe, Arizona. Steve's in Picker. So, Bill, how are you doing?
How are you, Dan? It's good to hear you. I'm live.
Great.
I'm alive.
We're all alive and live, absolutely. Steve and I are thrilled to have you on. We have so many questions, but we'll just start with this first hazing episode with you.
Okay.
Let's just launch right into a really exciting new product you have, which is your box set. Why don't you talk about that? We have some questions. Folks, chime in with your comments and questions. Steve and I are both monitoring the chats on Drum Talk TV and Yes Shift. We may even take some questions. Now it's Bill Bruford, so no stupid questions, please.
No. You can. No, stupid questions are very welcome.
Okay.
Well, I mean, what do you want me to tell you? Have you seen the box set by any chance?
Well, we have. In fact, I'm going to bring up both images of it, the cover and the layout that shows the whole setup of everything it comes with.
Because it's quite a beast. You know, it's all a lot of singing and dancing and a lot of bells and whistles.
Yeah.
On this thing, and it's 6 CDs. And comprising 70 tracks from some 21 ensembles of one sort or another, spanning a period of about 41, 42 years. So it's quite a feast. In fact, it's way too much Bill Bruford for even my mother.
I don't know if that's possible.
She couldn't digest all this, I'll tell you that. But it's slightly different. I mean, there's also a 52-page book that kind of describes what goes on in my little head. I produced this thing, so the hell with it. I can tell the folks what goes on in my head.
I love that.
And it's not arranged chronologically necessarily. It's more arranged thematically, along the lines of what musicians do, what drummers do, and how they perform. So typically, CDs 1 and 2 are really about performing with others collaboratively. People like Crimson and King Crimson and Yes and so forth. CDs 3 and 4 are performing as a leader with my own band Bruford, Earthworks and so forth. CD 5 is performing for a leader, for leaders, as a session guy, as it were, as a special guest perhaps for people like Al Di Meola or Roy Harper. And the final disc 6 is performing without a leader. Usually in improvised music, where typically there is no leader. So you're performing with others, or with a leader, as a leader, for a leader, and without a leader. So that's how the music is kind of arranged. And there are samples of me in action, your hero in action, in those 4 contexts.
Does it come with a liter of beer? Oh, leader. Sorry, just kidding. I was saying, does it come with a liter of beer?
Oh, a liter.
just kidding.
Sorry about that. Leader, yeah.
I love the themes, Bill, because it's very educational for people. If someone hasn't experienced any, even single one of those facets, there's a lot to learn there because they certainly are not the same. And in music, I also like to use sort of an equation with sports that can be different in music. In sports, a great player has never really made it as a great coach. A great coach has never historically had a great record as a great player. However, in music, there have been people like yourself that can play these different roles, but it truly comes with understanding them and knowing your place, doesn't it?
Yeah, a lot of this is interactive with other people. A lot of it is people skills, really. Knowing who's the leader, who's got the power here. Right. And the power in a musical ensemble isn't always where you think it is. It always isn't always the leader's name. It's not always the leader who's calling the shots, for example.
Right.
You just need to know stuff, and I'm sure you do, Dan, after many years behind a drum set. You learn this stuff the hard way, or you don't learn it at all.
And that's the hardest way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Steve has some questions I know he mentioned earlier to me about your box set. Why don't you go ahead with that, Steve?
Right. Well, first off, I really love the title of this, Making a Song and Dance, because lots of these tracks I just find myself dancing to when listening to them. So what I was wondering is what other tracks were considered for this, and with such a large body of work, is there a future box set in mind?
What other tracks were considered that didn't get in the box?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's a very hard question. You see, there's a number of parameters here. First of all, you're talking about 6 CDs, so in terms of time, it's about 70 tracks. But you're talking about 21 ensembles or so, or do you want to reduce that to 10 ensembles and have a lot of music from few people or less music from a lot of people? These are the kind of parameters you're thinking about. And then there's a thing called licensing, which you need to know about. So you've got to go to people and ask for permission. Now, half the time they slam you slam the door in your face. Sometimes they say, yeah, please take this license and do this. Other times, there are guys whose music you might quite like to have, but for one reason or another, they can't get around to saying yes. That might be, for example, there was something from National Health that I was unable to get from my pal Dave Stewart. It took all hell to get to some people. It's a really very long, time-consuming thing. So you can't always have what you want. You see what I mean? Even though it's an entire career. Interestingly, the big major bands like Yes and King Crimson are, in a way, the most helpful. They're used to licensing things. Sometimes other people, the music is locked up in an estate somewhere. Somebody's died. Right. There can be all kinds of problems. So it's not that easy immediately getting everything you want.
So sorting all that out before you were able even to really sort out arranging the whole thing by themes,
Indeed, what's available here and what isn't. So your running order will change a fair bit. If you're thinking of doing this, Dan, which you might be, your running order will change a fair bit as the months roll past and people say, no, we can't get that,
Wow.
So it's a licensing thing.
So how long did it take to put the whole thing together, Bill, from thought to print?
I would say we were thinking about this for 14, 15 months probably, and then a lot of work for the last 9 months.
Wow. Pretty
much. So it's quite a bit, life rolls on, but it's good. And I've had a wonderful record company, BMG. You don't often hear that from musicians, right?
That's right.
Musicians are always bitching about record companies. I haven't had a record company in a while other than my own 2 labels, which is fine. Right. Except I've got to tell you, when a bigger label, as a kind of major, steps in to help, it can be great. So I've got all kinds of publicists coming out of my ears.
That's great. Is that the big is that the big differentiator, Bill? The fact that they stepped in and they wanted to help bring this to fruition and promote it and all those things, distribution and whatnot?
Oh yeah, it is. It takes a lot of sweat off my shoulders, a lot of weight off my shoulders, certainly.
Great.
Yeah.
And by the way, folks, the link to purchase it is in the description of this post. So you can go ahead and it's pre-order phase now. Is that correct, Bill?
It is, absolutely. It's not out until April 29.
Great.
But it's available for pre-order now, sure.
Awesome. Sure. It's going to be on its way to both Globe, Arizona and Bakersfield after that, which we're really excited about it. Yeah.
That title that Stephen liked is really Making a Song and Dance is what I think I'm doing up there on the stage. When I'm doing all this and stuff, I think I'm in my head, I'm making a song and dance. I'm making people sing. I'm making me sing and dance.
Yeah.
Really.
You know what's funny about that, Bill, is that in the song Dance to the Music, by Sly and the Family Stone, the break says, I'm going to add some guitar to make it easy to move your feet. No one dances to anything but the drums. Am I right?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, we don't dance to the harmonica or the other harp or the sax or the guitar. Yeah. It's the drum. So you are creating a song and dance. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
Isn't that a great song?
Yeah. Speaking of song and dance, Bill, does everybody have rhythm, but not everyone has discovered it yet? Or are people either born with rhythm or without it? What's your take on that? Is it innate?
Sure. There's rhythm in everything we do. It's all around us. Right. People are unaware of it, and I would say it's not that they haven't discovered it; they haven't developed it. People have language skills, which they can develop to a very high level. They have rhythmic skills too. They also have singing skills. So don't listen to these people who say I don't sing or I can't sing. everybody can sing, but some sing better than others, and some have training and so forth, and some develop it.
Right.
So I think you can be taught drums. You can achieve drumming at quite a high level without being particularly musical. But we won't go down and asking for examples of who that might be. But,
yeah, that's okay.
but you know, you can get quite far on an instrument. I remember Robert Fripp telling me once. Was it him? Maybe not. That he. No, I can't really say. It's to do with learning a language. You know, a bit like some people play a musical instrument, a bit like they're learning French. You know, they're not naturally good at it, but they can be pretty persuasive French speakers without being hugely talented at it.
That's an interesting analogy. I've always felt, in fact, I talk about this on a show that we do on Drum Talk TV once a month with a fellow drummer, Jason Gianni. It's called A Tribute to the Tributes. And what we do is we find great tribute bands, and the lesson in featuring them is the fact that partly what makes them great is that they've truly learned the language and the dialect of whomever they're paying tribute to. So an example I use is we can all go into a bar or a pub and hear a band, and they might play a Bad Company song, Aerosmith, AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, but it all sounds like that band at the pub. None of it sounds like any of those bands. But when you truly learn, you know, like if you're going to play something by Bill Bruford, you better have your snare cranked down really tight for starters. You know, learning, you know, getting the sounds of the instruments and really learning the language of each instrument's musician, I think makes that difference.
It does, yeah. I wouldn't want to go down that road, although I've been in a good covers band, and the first band I was in was a covers band called Yes.
That's right.
And Yes did covers, but not in the way that most people consider covers. In other words, we weren't trying to do a replica.
Right.
We were trying to take the cover further than we would take it further than it existed, and try to develop it and add our own character to yesify it, to crimsonize it, to put your own personality into it. So doing standards and covers is an admirable way for musicians and bands to start.
Yeah, and I think that you folks absolutely did stretch them, of course. And I don't just mean figuratively in length, but with your own interpretation. Which made them successful as what they were. Like, what's the point in playing something exactly like someone else if it's going on your own record as your own band?
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. What do you think drummers in particularly might be missing from your own experience of seeing, I'm sure, many drummers play over the years? What are some drummers missing that might be right in front of them that they need to be doing? Is it they're developing their own sound? Is it knowing how to tune? Is it practicing to a metronome? What is it?
A little bit of all those things, but maybe it's also getting your head up and out of the drum world, which is very all-consuming. You know, I mean, you can spend all day with books and sticks and watching Steve Gadd and Dave Weckl videos. Hey, that's fun. It's fantastic. And yes, you get a little bit better and so forth. But the key, if you can do it, is to play with other people. That's how you learn a language, is by speaking it to other people. Right. So, you know, whatever gig it is, take it. And don't worry about how bad it is or how good it is. Just take the gig and don't worry about the music at all. That'll all come later. That's one thing, but I think most people know that. I mean, most people know they should play everything at the earliest possible opportunity to get the hang of how it all works. And one other thing I would say is listen more. The young guys that I know tend to have a very narrow bandwidth for listening, which always surprises me, you know, because I heard all kinds of music when I was a kid, and I didn't think one was better than another necessarily. I may have liked one more than another, but I just thought the whole thing was fantastic. These days, you tend to, you know, if you're spending an hour or two with a 15-year-old and he's going to play the drum kit, you kind of might say, "What kind of music do you like?" You know. And he'll think for a bit, and this happened to me, and the response was, "Well, I like Limp Bizkit." Now, nothing wrong with that band at all. I'm sure they're terrific, but you need something a bit broader than that.
Right.
A bit broader than one band. You know, there's whole genres. You need to listen back and forward all at the same time, I think.
You know what, Bill? I think part of that challenge is this. Growing up as a little boy, starting to play drums in the 60s in LA, there was a station, I don't even know if it's still there, 93 KHJ. Music was not segregated by genre like it is today. So as a little boy, I put on headphones. I'd played a Sly and the Family Stone, then Led Zeppelin would come on, and then Neil Diamond, and then Yes, and the Rolling Stone. And I didn't know they were different styles of music. I was just playing the music. Now everything, and I believe, is so segregated that if you open that one door, there's maybe only 1 to 3 items behind it rather than the 23 that I had back in the day. And I think that's part of the challenge.
I think there's a lot in that. And a young person, if I were instructing, I'm not much of a drum teacher, I don't have the patience. But if I were talking to guys, you know, you need to try to make them aware of that. They have a very narrow bandwidth, despite the fact, isn't it paradoxical, that we have so much music around us. We can listen to anything, anytime, from anywhere, any place.
Yeah.
And still, beginners tend to narrow that down to something they can recognize as Limp Bizkit.
Yeah, point well taken. Speaking of genres, one of the things that really whacked me in the face in your lovely book, by the way, folks, Bill wrote his own autobiography.
Yeah.
Get a load of that.
And I've sold 2 copies.
We were actually going to send you a signed copy. We were going to sign one and send it to you. No, I'm just kidding.
That's so kind. Thank you very much.
Might be worth something.
Thank you.
Page 108 really knocked me in the face because it describes what happened moving into the 80s to the genre of progressive rock music. And right during the time, and folks will check comments in a moment, right during that time, I was in a progressive rock band in LA. We were playing all up and down the Sunset Strip, played pretty much every venue. But think about this, we were a prog rock band playing with bands like Motley Crue, Rat, Great White, all of those bands. And we were prog rock, and we were so into our own thing. We refused to conform. We were having fun. We thought we had principles. We were having fun, but quite honestly, we missed the record deal boat because the prog rock, especially in the US at that time, not so much in the Netherlands and different parts of Europe and whatnot, it was just literally evaporating. And I saw my aspirations evaporate, and I got out of the band and moved into more doing session work and producing music for commercials, and it just went away. So that page just really describes that whole 2-year period of my life, like in a nutshell.
It felt like that, yeah. And it's difficult for musicians. Sometimes the wind is in your favor, you know.
Right.
And sometimes it isn't. I often say that one of the smartest things I ever did was get born in 1949.
Yeah.
Which is a great year. Why? Because that put me at about 18 in 1968, 69, around that 18, 19, that kind of era. And that was a burning time in Europe, certainly, with literally with riots everywhere. And Paris students were sitting down, sitting in other people's offices. There was all kinds of things going on in 68.
Oh, yeah. And the war and the racial tension and the political.
Yeah, let alone different things were happening in Europe, but the whole place was alive, you know.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of all that was Coltrane and Hendrix and the rest of it. And then you couldn't really go wrong. You know, so I hit the ground running fast, really. You know, from psychedelia and the British blues boom to Yes, and then on we went. And no, there wasn't any policeman around saying you can't do that. There was no record company saying you've got to do this. Right. We just started playing, and off we went. It was great.
And one of the things that astonished me in the books, in fact, Steve and I haven't talked about this. I'm curious on his take, but I was really blown away when I read that in Yes, in the beginning years, you folks were raking an amazing 25-pound a week and then graduating to 50 pounds a week, getting some other things taken care of. In that period, did you ever imagine that later in your 20s and into your 30s and into your 40s, you'd have such a growing and flourishing career? Did you, like, at what point did you see the light at the end of the tunnel that wasn't an oncoming train and it looked like, oh, yeah, this is really going to pan out?
Oh, for me, when I was sitting in the back of a limousine, I remember going in from the airport, JFK, into the city, Manhattan, and somebody passed me billboard. And there we were. There was, yes, number 4, kind of behind Carole King's Tapestry, maybe, and I don't know, maybe Frank Sinatra.
Wow.
And at that point, I thought, we've got some security here.
Yeah.
This is great. This means it won't happen now. It'll be a year, and God knows there'll be so many lawyers and haggling. But it means that for me, particularly as a young musician, you get the ability to make options. You've got options and choices right away. You can stay with the band. You can leave. You've got financial backing, right. So you're a free agent. Which is really nice, as opposed to having to hand to mouth. And definitely play every week because you won't make the rent. I mean, that's hard, very hard.
Yeah. And I know you go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say you got born in the wrong year. That's the
yeah, absolutely. That's true.
There's not much anybody can do about this. I'm quite sure if you were born in 1949, you would have been a yes.
Right. Oh, that I do think often. What an amazing time to have played that music, but. What also hit home with me and my wife, who's a professional artist, is the lesson you give in describing the difference between fame and success. And while I know you wanted to make a living in those early days, you did earn what you perceived as success, being able to play what you want, with whom you wanted to, when you wanted to. And a lot of people just kind of didn't get that was your goal and what that goal meant. But
it means a lot.
You achieved that. Yeah, it's everything as a true artist, who doesn't want to conform and just mail it in or do what they're told,
So, given what you just said, that I was one of these few individuals who I've met, really, who's lucky enough to be able to do that, play what you want, where you want, with whom you want, and so forth. I have no one to blame. Which is a great shame. I can't even blame the record company. If what I play is what I play, I kind of like it. If you do too, that's terrific. If not, I can't do anything else about it. And I certainly can't blame anyone, which is nice.
Right. I'm going to hand it over to Steve while I check some comments over here. I'm not watching the Flintstones, folks. I'm watching our show here and checking the comments. Okay.
Good luck, Steve.
Yeah. Yeah, and I quite like the tracking order on the box set, how it's such a stark contrast going from And You and I to The Great Deceiver. Just really illustrates how different Yes and King Crimson are from each other.
Yes, I thought I'd make that point right there.
Yeah.
yeah, they were different, sure.
Right, yeah. And, when I was a kid... It's funny. We were having this discussion of being honing in on just one thing. Like my dad would only play progressive rock, but as a kid, I only wanted to listen to Yes, and it wasn't until middle school that I thought, hey, you know what? I'll listen to all these other bands that these guys have been in, and it's just like, I've been missing out.
We're talking from out of the womb until middle school. Even when I got to the point where, okay, I think the boy's ready to hear some Jethro Tull and some Beatles, and he wanted nothing to do with it. It was just yes, and more yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, but I've broadened my horizons, and it had been a while since the last time I listened to King Crimson and Earthworks, but listening again recently, it's just such a great breadth of work that you've done over the decades.
Yeah, it's quite a stretch from, the last couple of improvised tracks on the album, from that through the first beginning 2 tracks, which are Yes. It's quite a stretch, and most people think drummers don't want to do that or can't do that or something. I love it all. I just think it's great. I'd love to improvise with guys. And the last 2 tracks I'm referring to are just piano and drums. with a Dutch
Gotcha.
pianist called Michael Borslaap, live,
okay.
right there in a club somewhere. You probably hear some teacups tinkling away or some glasses tinkling away in the back. And I'm all for that. I grew up with music like that.
Yeah.
So I grew up as a jazz guy, really. But jazz guys open to suggestions.
Right.
So, we listened to the Beatles and we listened to the Rolling Stones, but and we thought they were quite good. Not bad, but not quite as interesting as Art Blakey and Elvin Jones and Max Roach.
The interesting thing about that is regarding your body of work, you've not done a lot of the same thing, yet it all sounds like Bill Bruford, which I love. You've been able to take your sound and encapsulate it, yet make it work for so many different genres, but also different types of music, songs within that same genre. And that's really interesting to me. And I don't think anyone sounds like you. There's so many drummers that you can hear some influences of this and that, even in the way their drums are tuned or produced or something, but you have a very unique sound. And I remember looking back years ago, first discovering on your website, years and years ago, where you had a diagram of every drum set from every project, pretty much. Do you remember that, Bill?
I do. It's still there.
It's still there
on the site. I didn't do it. A lovely guy from Argentina, I think, did it.
I love that. Yeah,
it's quite fun. Yeah.
Even from the 4-piece setup to the setup with all the Simmons that were on the wall. I still have my 1983 Simmons, by the way.
All right.
The Simmons, all those things. It still sounds like you and has your sound, but yet you were able to play from, like you said, from Roy Harper to, all these other things you've done that are so different from each other, which is great.
I think also part of what frames your identity is your sound, of course, but where you play the notes and where you put the notes. So I was never always a very good backbeat guy. I was always looking for some other place to put the note, maybe. Mm-hmm. So people often say, if the drumming was at all kinky, they'd say, oh, that must be Bill Buford. They would say, that must be Bill Bruford. There's something kinky in the rhythm, or it's got a dog's leg in it or something, or it's got something funny in the rhythm. And I didn't mind that. But I think people are often noticing where the backbeat's gone or the accent is in a different part of the measure.
Right. Or it's not in 4/4, for God's sake.
It's not in 4/4, sure.
A great example, and there's so many, but a great example of you putting so many different things into one piece. What's that? I think it's Making the Song Dance. I heard that for the first time the other night in a long time. And it reminded me of how many different colors and flavors are in that song, from kind of like listening to a symphony to a ballet to just plowing through to lumbering along. It's got like a little bit of everything, like a 9-course meal of music. It's even got the ratchet, which I just love.
Which track are you referring to?
If I remember right, it's on the box set. Is it Making a Song Dance?
Well, that's the title of the box set. But
that's the title of the box set. What was
there is actually a track called Making a Song and Dance, but it doesn't have a ratchet.
it was, oh man.
It doesn't matter. The point is taken.
Yeah. And now it's going to drive me.
We did visit lots of places in the music. That's true sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to take some, here it is. Oh, duh, The Great Deceiver. What a
it was The Great Deceiver.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got your box set on my mind because I keep checking the mailbox, even though I know it's in pre-order mode.
No, I quite understand. It's a lot of music. I'm amazed that you guys can find your way through it at all. I can't remember half the tracks on the box set.
Let's take some questions. I'll read some comments. This is from the Drum Talk TV page. Tim Rohn. Hey, Tim, slights Art Blakey as that same type of influence. Oh, he's asking you, Bill, will you have signed autobiographies? If so, how can I get one to go with my signed drumhead from GRD? Do you have any signed versions out there?
I can't personalize them.
Okay.
We're overseas and we don't, I'm not geared up to mail mailed books, I'm afraid.
There's not a locker full of just signed ones, though, without the dedication?
There are. You can buy signed books from the store, the same.
Okay, great.
You go to Bill Bruford website, and there's a store there, and there are unique signed items there. But of course, it won't say Dan on the front.
Right, yeah. I'll add that. Adam Dean says hello from Wichita, Kansas to Dr. Bruford. Good to see you. And same to you, Dan and Stephen. Great. People from all over. Oh, my part of town. Daniel Drapkins in the West San Fernando Valley. That's where I grew up, in West Hills. Here's a question for you. Let's geek out on drumming. Here we go.
All right.
This is from Joshua VP. Good evening, all. Hey, Mr. Bruford. Question. The 17 part of Indiscipline, how did you count it out loud? Or did you?
I
guess you just count 1 through 17.
Well, no, I don't count anything out loud. The rhythm becomes internalized. What's the gentleman's name who I'm speaking to?
Joshua.
Joshua. I don't count anything out loud. It's a rhythm that eventually gets inside your body, and you probably sing it. If you're unfamiliar with it, to start with, you sing the bass line. That's always a great thing to do, which happens to be da da dee da da dee da da dee da 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 be doo 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 be doo doo be doo dee bom bom da da be da da be da da be da bom bom be doo dee doo doo be doo doo be doo dee bom bom. Start again. That was 17 quarter notes. So it's a tune. It's a melody singing in my head. You know, I go to sleep singing that stuff. Like, I hate it. Now it's on the other side of the beat. It comes and goes against the beat, and So great. What can I say? It goes in the brain. I don't count it. It's tune, if you like. And after a while, I'm playing the drum tune in my head.
Yeah. And if you learned the bass part, and in my experience, the way I learned long pieces of music when I was very young, Close to the Edge, Long Distance Runaround, Carnival 9, Supper's Ready. I learned these songs by memorizing what every other instrument was doing because that was my roadmap.
Yeah.
Then just like driving somewhere you've been before, that turn is coming up, and the only way you know that is to understand the road, and that's what the other instruments were to me. So
sure. At least I had the benefit of assembling the music at the same time. So I never really learned it. You were just assembling it, and then at the end of the record, you'd say, "Oh, that's what it is."
Right.
But you could play it all the way through then.
Right.
You know, often, so we couldn't play Close to the Edge all the way through until we'd made the record, and then we could play it all the way through. You see what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because it was designed live in the studio, 8 bars at a time.
Right. And that wouldn't have happened if you didn't get that bit out of the rubbish bin.
There was that. The rubbish bin incident. Yeah. The crash can.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I see a question from Thomas Campbell over on the Yes Shift page who says, Bruford fan since 1975. I love 5% for nothing, but it's too short, darn it. Was there a plan to extend the piece originally, or did he want it to be short and sweet?
A bit of both. But I've always had trouble with extending music. As a composer, I was a kid, I didn't know how to write music really. So I'd have a great idea and then a little middle section, and then I'd play the great idea again, and then I'm done. So you need to be in yes or something to get some recapitulations and to play the thing backwards in a different key. You need someone like Rick Wakeman, to help you with that stuff.
Right.
I got better at that, to be honest. But it's partly because I wanted it short and sweet, and it's partly because that's the length it was. I ran out of steam.
That makes sense. Now that you're retired from performing, are you writing music at all and have any aspirations to record anything? Have you ever considered motion picture soundtrack work or anything like that?
No, I don't want to. I had a good time. I moved really into the written word. So for the last 5-10 years, I've been in academia I got a doctorate in musicology. So I went off and started writing academic articles about what drummers do and what they might do. That sort of thing. And I've thoroughly enjoyed that. I've been a full-time academic writer for about 5 years, and I'm just thinking what to do next, really.
Ooh.
So I'm not thinking that I want to form a band or anything like that, or write songs or persuade anybody. And I think I'd rather, rather than turn into Hans Zimmer or one of the great movie guys, which I know people do, and they do a very good job of it. I think maybe I'll go walking in places like the hills that you see behind me.
Yeah, that's great.
I'd rather do that.
That makes sense. And walking's a good thing. Time to just break away from everything else.
Yeah.
And Steve being such an enormous Yes fan, he's like a Yes lexicon. He's a Yexicon. He could name pretty much every album, every song in order. I mean, it's crazy. So, Steve, I know you have some Yes questions you've been wanting to ask Bill.
Right. So I read in an old interview with Jeff Downes that in 1980, supposedly you demoed the Yes song "We Can Fly From Here" with him, Trevor Horn, and Chris Squire, and that Chris may have wanted to work with you on something. We're not sure if you're on either of the demos that have been floating around, but what's the story there? And did Chris have a side project in mind at that time, 1980?
Well, first thing you got to realize is that I left in 72.
Right.
Yeah.
I think. And I didn't listen to Yes or associate with Yes in any way, shape, or form for about the next 25 years. So who was playing with who, or who knew what about who, or whether Trevor Horn was in the room at the same time as Chris Squire, I don't know any of that. I was busy in another band.
So you weren't, that's a rumor that you had anything to do with that?
Correct.
Okay.
It's a rumor I've never heard of, but I don't really do rumors, really. But no, I had nothing to do with that at all.
Okay, because we've read it in a couple places, so we thought, we got to ask Bill about this.
Great. No, that's fine. And ask away. But King Crimson had a full, I'd just run my own band in the late 70s, Bruford, and then I went straight to King Crimson.
Yeah.
And then after that, I can't remember, I formed Earthworks in about 87. And perhaps the next time I had any intercourse with Yes, members of any sort, was Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, Howe.
Right.
I guess. So, and really that was like a reunion. It was like because I hadn't been in touch with those guys.
Speaking of that, Bill, what was different, if anything, about the creative and production process when you first got with ABWH versus that basically same lineup when you left in the Close to the Edge year, other than, I'm presuming, whoever was involved was on time. Other than that, what were the biggest differences? I know technology had advanced, but...
The one huge difference, which is what basically I thought I slightly got the wrong end of the handle. I thought it was going to be a John Anderson solo record.
Right.
Because John had said, come and play on this record. I said, great, assuming it to be a John record. And he'd done a lot of demos, which were going to be blown up, augmented in the studio. Mm-hmm. And we went off to Montserrat to do that. But on the plane, I realized there were lots of other people, and this was rapidly turning into a band because everybody liked the way this was shaping up. Yeah. So the key thing is that the music was already formed. So we weren't starting Close to the Edge on day one, thinking, well, I've got a bit of a tune and you've got a bass line and he's got a drum part, that whole thing. We didn't do that, and rightly so. So John was controlling the project in that sense, and it's largely John's music. And that was fine. But then it all went pear-shaped after that. It was horrible after that.
Let's stick with the fun stuff.
Yeah.
What was it like playing Close to the Edge live finally, because you had left before the Close to the Edge tour? What was that like for you?
Well, I loved the piece of music, and it was great because I'd never played it live.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I loved it. I still love it today. There's nothing wrong with Close to the Edge. It's great. It's always held up very well, I think.
Yeah.
And I put a couple of tracks from it, I think, on the box set right at the beginning. Yeah, I loved it. No problem with it at all. It's great.
Awesome. Another music geek question. I'm quoting Adam Dean. He says, on the track Starless and Bible Black, The live
Yeah.
Amsterdam improv, you're creating a strange effect on your glockenspiel in the beginning. It almost sounds like you're swiping the mallets. It just moved. Swiping the mallets up and down the bars, but I don't think that's what you're doing. How did you create that sound? Do you recall what he's referring to, Bill?
This is hard. This is really hard. Started some Bible Black in Amsterdam.
Glockenspiel, maybe
Yeah.
sounds like that's what he's referring to.
I'm sorry. I really am. The sound is not coming to my ears.
Okay.
You know, if
No
somebody
worries.
could play me the audio, I'll tell you what it is. But right now, I'm not hearing a sound that meets that description.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries. Adam, maybe you could put the link to that in your reply to your own comment. And later, when we send this to Bill, he'll listen to it, maybe type an answer.
How about that?
Yeah. Let's see. I saw another one. This is a question we were going to ask, but we'll let our fan and your fan, Tim Rohn, ask this. A typical question. What are some of your favorite Yes King Crimson Earthwork songs to play that you looked forward to playing the most? What are some of your favorites?
Oh, most of them are on the box set.
Yeah, I would think so.
You know, I don't really do favorites very well. I know that's a terrible answer for all kind of. This is why I never get invited on chat shows.
No, I think it means you really
I don't really have
enjoy it
favorites.
all.
I love it all.
Yeah.
I love it all for different reasons. You know,
Right.
Yeah.
it depends very much on what other people are doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people can do heartbreaking things. You know, I mean, there's a Roy Harper song called "Hallucinating Light" on the album. And when he sings that, I can fall apart behind him. I just think it's so strong and so emotional. I don't think I'm doing anything. I may even be not playing. It's so simple, whatever it is that I'm doing. But what I do is enabling him to be what it is that he wants to be. And it's spine-chillingly great.
What a concept for a drummer, by the way.
So I like all the music, otherwise I wouldn't be there. And no matter how simple or complex the music might be, it can always be played better than you played it the night before.
Absolutely. That's a great answer. Stella Luna Valadez says hi, and she says, how was it when you played with Peter Banks? You both looked so in tune. Love it all. Many exclamation points as well.
Oh, Peter was a live wire. We were very young, of course, you know.
Yeah.
He wore very tight trousers too.
Yes.
Real tight. Fancy, as you say. And he had that Rickenbacker guitar, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
He played like a man possessed, which I thought was really nice. I kind of like that about Flea, the guy with Chili Peppers, you know.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
can't believe the way he embodies the rhythm, you know, and that his whole persona is in that rhythm that he's playing, in that music that he's playing. Same with Peter Banks. For that moment, he really is sunk into the music. He's not kind of thinking about a paycheck at the end of the week, or maybe the girl over there looks cute, or, you know, I could use, a good burger after this. He's not thinking that. He's not thinking anything apart from the fact that he's so deeply immersed in the music, like Flea, like all good musicians. They tend to be like that.
Highly underrated, I believe. I really believe that that Peter left a more indelible mark than he's given credit for, not just for being a founder of Yes, but also simply his playing as a musician and a guitarist.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Speaking of going back to jazz, are there any newer or more contemporary jazz artists that you appreciate? Maybe someone within the last 20 years? I think that would be contemporary for jazz.
Eric Hart, you drummers, you mean? I mean,
Yeah, either drummers or even just acts.
Eric Harland, of course, is fantastic, and Mark Giuliani, you know Mark Giuliani stuff by any chance? He's terrific. I mean, there's a lot of great young players out there. I mean, the standard of the top guys is absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah.
In terms of the names of jazz ensembles, I don't really know. You know, I haven't done a whole lot of listening and staying up with who's what and who does what. You know, like I said, I put down the sticks 12 years ago, and my head's been somewhere else.
I still have them in my head as somewhere else, so I get that.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Yeah, totally
But
get it.
I did an academic book and interviewed 9 great drummers. Peter Erskine, of course, Cindy Blackman,
Yeah.
Santana, Cindy.
She'll be on next week on the 21st.
Oh, really?
Actually.
Hi,
Yeah.
Cindy.
Yeah, second time. Yeah.
Terrific Norwegian guys, Thomas Stronen.
Yeah.
There's lots of guys around, and just asking them what they felt about creativity and how they operated with a drum set was a real lesson.
Right.
Real lesson and fascinating.
Bill, I'm seeing a lot of, this is really refreshing. I'll have to send you some links. I'll dig some up. I see a lot of youngsters, drummers that are playing old school traditional jazz from like the late 50s up to the late 60s. Young kids, like 10, 11, and that's really refreshing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really?
And my first question is, how did they even get exposed to it? Because their parents must be younger than I am if they're 10.
Well, it's the parents, of course, that expose you. My parents exposed me to the first music that I heard, for sure.
Yeah.
They were kind of great ballroom dancers, and they would literally roll up the rug, and at the end of an evening's dinner and dance together. And I was the DJ, playing stuff that they like to hear. But yeah, how kids, get to hear, Miles and stuff. You mean they're playing that at the age of 11?
Yeah.
They're playing 7 Steps to Heaven at the age of 11?
Pretty much. Yeah. And they've got the swing in the right hand and everything. There's a young man I'm having on. Yeah. Tomorrow, Dominic McNabb, I think he's 14 now. He'll be on for the second time. He's in South Africa. I've been following him since he was probably 11 or 12. Yeah. And he's incredible. And he plays
on what instrument?
On drums. He plays drums, and he plays everything from that kind of jazz to fusion, much more modern fusion to rock. I mean, he's really good. I'll send you.
He's incredible.
Yeah, he's just mind blowing. Like, he's an alien. He got dropped off by Dominic. No offense, but I'm sure you were dropped off by a flying saucer. I want to know what these kids are eating for breakfast because I need some of that.
Yeah, it's funny when young people seem to have inside them knowledge of such depth that they couldn't possibly have lived the years necessary to get that knowledge.
Yeah.
But somehow they have it early on. They say Mozart was like that.
And the knowledge is only part of it. It's a big part of it, but the dexterity in their hands and the memorization, and there's all these other things that make up the matrix of being able to do what I see them doing. It's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really something, isn't it?
Yeah. It's mind-blowing. Let's see if there's any more questions. If not,
I see one here.
Go ahead.
So Jeffrey Mason asks, in terms of promoting music via music videos, do you have any recollections of ridiculous experiences making videos for the music with which you've been involved?
Pretty much, but I'm from the pre-MTV generation, which means that we didn't make videos, we made short movies for TV. And they were often terrible. A Belgian TV company would take the band Yes out onto a rubbish tip or a junkyard or somewhere with a lot of metal and cars. And we'd set up and lip sync to the latest track. But we were so bad at it, of course, they would start putting in some sort of visual aids. So, the camera would zoom in and zoom out and do weird things.
Yeah.
Like, something would go in front of you. And it was always very terrible. And half the time we would lip sync each other's parts. So I didn't play the drums, I played the keyboard. And somebody else would be lip syncing my drums and stuff. So we did a lot of that, a lot of fooling around at the beginning of those early days. And then when MTV came and the thing called video came, that was a whole shock.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really good.
Yeah, I think there's a charm to how those Belgian videos look. Just the band running around and, peeking out from behind the tree. It's silly, but it's
you
fun
driving
to
the
watch.
dune buggy with everyone
falling
out of it.
Of course, that's all the Beatles' fault. We were doing what we thought the Beatles did. Yeah. They all kind of had fun, wacky times in dune buggies in movies like Help and things like that. So I think we were a pop group, and we were doing what we thought we were expected to do.
And then the whole Monkees shtick was built on that in their TV series.
Absolutely, it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Every time they broke into a song, it was exactly like one of those films that you guys just mentioned.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about this project, and since Jim Wilmoth brought it up, he says, how did your works with Patrick Moraz come about? Was there an idea or a concept going into each album? I love those two albums, Piano and Drums. I saw you at the Beverly. The weird thing about that show, weird thing about that show is just for where I was sitting, it looked like you were staring at me the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
Through every song. And it was hilarious. It was really weird.
Sorry.
I would go like this.
That's enough to put anyone off.
Yeah, great project, great music. How did that collaboration come about?
Well, we were both at loose ends, kind of around the same time. I'd just come off the back of a very noisy and difficult King Crimson 3 or 4 years with an impossibly difficult electronic drum set, which malfunctioned more times than it worked.
Yeah.
And that was really tough. And we'd been sort of, the band had kind of broken up. It's been about 1984 now, I think. Yeah. I was at home, and this guy, Patrick Moraz, who I didn't know, was living no more than half a mile away.
Oh, wow.
That's a strange thing. Absolutely. I could walk to his place.
Wow.
And I said, one thing I'm going to do next is it's not going to have any equipment. It's not going to need road managers. It's going to be real light. And he thought about that for a bit. We thought, well, how about just piano and drums? And how about the overheads on that will be fantastic. The promoter can provide the piano, right? And I can get a drum kit from pretty much anywhere. So the total cost of everything is one pair of drumsticks.
Yeah.
And sometimes you want to make life simple. So we didn't want it to be jazz. We didn't want it to be rock. So we thought it might be music for piano and drums. And that's how we started that. And it expanded a little bit. And then we brought some electronics in with a new Kurzweil keyboard that came in 86, 87, around that time. But for a while, we did quite a lot of road work and had a lot of time, a lot of fun. It's great.
Great project, great music. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have about 8 minutes left, just so we know we're like winding down.
So why don't we do this? Steve, I know you had a question, if I remember right, that ties into Patrick and Bill on a couple other projects. And then we'll move into the Bill Bruford fun fact questions.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right.
I'm ready.
So what was it like working on Steve Howe and Chris Squire's solo albums in 1975 after you'd already left the band and were doing all these other things? What was that period like?
Well, like my friend Robert Fripp, he would say the same thing, that when you're working on somebody else's record, it's so easy. It's just great. In comparison to working on your own record, which is hell on earth, hell on wheels. Working for somebody else, and he says, well, the song goes like this. Could you play the drums on it? You go, yeah.
You show up and do it. And that's it.
It's so straightforward. You mean I don't have to argue with you about it? I'm just going to play what you want? That's great. And so it's really quite relaxing. And because it is, funnily enough, you often play very well. You play better often on other people's material than you do on your own.
Interesting. You think there's less inhibitions and less self-conscious about your own? It's got to be like that, like no internal battles.
Yes, indeed. Although I did run my own band. The first time I ran a band under my own name, Bruford, and we had Alan Holdsworth and Dave Stewart and Jeff Berlin. That was quite extraordinary because I was more concerned about those three guys and were they okay? Were they comfortable? Did they like any of this music? How were they getting on? And I spent all the time in the studio worrying about the record and those three guys. And I almost played the drums as an afterthought. Oh, by the way, it needs some drumming. Get on things, Bill, and play something. And again, I was quite relaxed doing that too. I spent about 5 minutes on the drums. I was spending all the time on the guitar.
Interesting.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. And somehow, because I wasn't thinking about the drums or worrying about it in any way, that was fine. It came out well. So the original question was about Steve and
Yeah.
Chris, and same thing. Yeah, you're playing on other people's records. It's pretty easy. You can suggest a few things, but if you run a few ideas up the flagpole, but if nobody salutes, that's fine. You've got plenty of other ways of playing the track.
Great. Before we move into the fun fact questions, I don't want to forget this. The King Crimson movie is going to come out eventually. It looks like it's going to be a great film.
Yeah, in the court of the Crimson King. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the court of King Crimson.
Okay.
Because I think what you said, Steve, I think that's an album title.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I think.
Yeah, it is.
It is. I'm so used to reading it that way that I didn't realize the documentary was titled this different way, which makes sense. And now I really appreciate the wordplay of the documentary now. That just blows my mind.
And the promo is great. Is there an anecdote you can give us about Robert Fripp that might surprise people? Like, is he an avid baker? Does he knit? Like, is there some, people get so stereotyped and pigeonholed, they must be like this. You know what I mean? That wouldn't be too intrusive on him personally.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Again, I'm not a chat show kind of guy, and it's a good question. But really, what you see is what you get with Robert. Particularly when you see the movie, you get a very good slice of Robert. You may have seen him and his wife Toya on some of their Sunday lunch shows and things they do on video. He's crazy. I mean,
nice. Crazy
guy. But with a very powerful mind and I think a warm heart. I learned a lot from working with him. Huge amount.
Great.
And was eternally grateful for having been a member of King Crimson for a long time. But when it had to come to an end, it had to come to an end, and that's fine too. Yeah. So as I say, I can't blame anyone at all for anything. An incident with Robert? No, not really. He's quite a good mimic.
Nice.
Of some people, particularly when they were auditioning to be singers of King Crimson. But that anecdote ends up getting a bit rude, so I don't think I'll do that.
Yeah, no worries. Let's move into some Bill Bruford fun fact question. Here we go. Answer these as quickly as they come to mind. Kind of a rapid fire, but we'll keep them easy. Cats, dogs, both or none?
Cats, dogs, both or none. Cats.
Okay. And
currently none, but we used to have cats all the time.
Okay, great. Charlie Parker, Louis Armstrong, Cab Calloway, or Iron Maiden?
Charlie Parker.
Okay. And why Charlie?
Why Charlie Parker?
Yeah. What's the allure for you?
Well, because it was the first saxophone playing of that type that I never heard, and it just transfixed me as a kid.
Nice.
So it's loyalty, I think, to the first guy who turns your head around like crazy,
Yeah, great. You've toured probably countless times around this sphere that we're all holding on to for dear life. Is there a bucket list destination, Bill, that you've never been to, other than my house?
A bucket list destination I've never been to. Iceland is coming up soon.
Ooh, nice.
Oh, nice.
I'd like to go to Iceland sometime.
Maybe after you go there.
They're very slick up there.
That's awesome. After you go there, I'd love for you to answer this question. Why is Iceland green on the map and Greenland is white? What's up with that? That's bugged me since I was a little kid.
It's a great question. I've no idea what the answer is to that.
Okay. Do you have a favorite TV show?
Favorite TV show that currently works?
Either way. Could be old, ages old if you want.
Ages old would be Jazz 625 on BBC television.
Ooh.
Which was, you don't know anything about, but it was prime time, black and white, live, very live jazz, where I heard all the jazz that I needed to hear by the age of 11 through 13. Saturday nights at 625 primetime TV, and it would be Art Blakey, followed by, Freddie Hubbard, followed by, all the guys.
Your YouTube of the day, right?
YouTube of the day, very, very live. 2 or 3 mics on stage at the most. And for some reason, and in those days, they had BBC balance engineers. You don't even know what a balance engineer is, but he just put in mics where he thought they would best pick up the sound. And they were very good at it, So the drums weren't too loud and the piano wasn't too quiet and the bass was just right.
Interesting. And everyone on the bandstand wore a suit and tie, right? Pretty much.
Everybody wore a suit and tie pretty much in those days. Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
It was very exciting.
Great. How about a favorite movie?
Favorite movie? You didn't say you'd do this to me.
That's what makes it spontaneous. There's no wrong answers, just so you know.
Master and Commander.
Actually, that's a wrong. No, I'm kidding.
Do you know Master and Commander?
I don't think so. No.
That's great. It's a British Royal Navy story of the 18th century Nelsonic Navy, with Russell Crowe as the hero captain of the ship.
I want to watch
and this
that.
ship goes to hell and back. It's a very, very well made piece. Unfortunately, there's almost no female interest, so they were unable to make a second one.
Oh, wow. Crazy.
Great movie.
I'll have to check that out. Do you have a favorite food?
Favorite food? my dinner, which is coming up really soon.
Okay. And how about a favorite beverage?
Favorite beverage? Oh, I'm a mad coffee drinker. Love it.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you like trying different coffees from different regions?
I'm perfectly happy to do that. Yeah, but so long as it's black, and usually decaffeinated in my case, but because I'm an old guy now. But so long as it's black and it comes fairly regularly, I'm very happy.
Nice. Chess or checkers?
Oh, checkers. I never got the hang of chess, which would have been good. I should have done.
I think being in a band was as
here.
close as you needed to get to chess.
Yeah, I think so.
Lemon or lime?
Lemon.
Okay. And best advice?
Lemon cheesecake.
Oh, that's
lemon cheesecake.
nice.
Ooh, that sounds really good.
Best advice taken?
And I know what the next question is going to be. Best advice
That you like to give. Yeah.
Best advice taken. You have to give me a minute to think. Best advice taken. Is remember that you don't. The music exists not for you. You exist for the music.
Oh, that's brilliant. Who said that? Do you remember?
Yeah, the other percussionist in King Crimson.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I think
it's in the book. Yes.
He was stripping me down bad.
Yeah.
And just suddenly occurred to me, of course I've been using the music to put Little Bill Bruford in. Oh no. That's all wrong.
Right.
Works the other way around. The music is the thing.
That's
not
brilliant.
Bill Bruford.
I remember now reading.
But, 18-year-olds need to be told this.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they just play paradiddles going even faster.
58-year-olds need to be told that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what's your favorite advice to give? That's your own advice.
Favorite advice to give. Well, I'm stumped.
Okay,
Sorry,
that's good advice, actually.
I don't have a cliched answer. At least I don't have a ready cliched lick that I'm just trotting out.
Don't pee in a hurricane or whatever. Yeah. Last question.
Last question. Thank God for that.
Yeah. Last question. If people who know you well found out that you got arrested, what would they assume it's for?
Too much coffee drinking. That's possible. Maybe driving too fast.
Oh, you like
that's possible. I shouldn't, but particularly in Germany, boy, it's easy. When we used to tour in the States, actually, during the fuel crisis, the gasoline crisis in the
I remember that
70s, whenever it was.
Yeah.
And the speed limit was 50 miles an hour, I think, or 55. Oh, that was torture. We'd sit in a van for weeks on end trying to make the next one-nighter, and it was so slow.
on time.
Yeah, getting there on time.
Yeah. Great. Everybody, we know you probably have other questions. We're going to send Bill this link. We're also going to send him the raw video to put on his channels. But Bill, maybe you can cruise through, see if there's any fun questions you want to address. Folks, thanks for joining Steve and myself, and of course our guest, Bill Bruford. Bill, thank you so much for taking time with us.
My
can't
pleasure.
tell you how much I appreciate it, so I won't.
Yeah, many thanks, Bill.
Okay, Stephen, you're more than welcome, guys.
Really great. Hang on the line for a moment. And folks, we will see you tomorrow with Dominic McNabb, and on the 21st with Cindy Blackman, and on the 30th, Liberty DeVito. And we're getting stuff lined up for May as well. So we'll see you all soon. Thanks.